have not gone live on this channel in a while, and I've barely gone live on this channel, period. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Naziyah Harris case, because I have been following the case pretty heavily, and I've been watching the trial recently, and so yeah, I don't even know really where to start. Naziyah Harris went missing in January 2024, January 9th, 2024. She, like, her body has never been found, but they have found, like, what do you call it? Clothing of hers that he threw, scattered in a random location. They did find that, so it's a 42-year-old man named Jarvis Butts. What a fucking name, I swear to God. That's karma, huh? It's like, dude. Anyway, he's the freak of nature being accused of this. He is also being accused of two other incidents where he sexually assaulted or abused his own daughter and a 4-year-old. So gross and creepy. Just all of it is gross and creepy. But he apparently, and they definitely have evidence to prove this, very clear evidence. They have text messages between Naziyah and Jarvis where she is telling him that she didn't get her period. They were texting and they were messaging on Instagram. It's just insane, because I'm just like, I'm sorry, but her mom was not alive, okay? Her mom died, and so her aunt adopted her and was taking care of her. So granted, she didn't have a mother, but still, the aunt should have been more vigilant and should have been, I'm sorry, when your 13-year-old daughter has a cell phone, you definitely should be fucking monitoring what the fuck is going on it. I don't mean, being controlling about it. I think there's a limit, but I definitely think you should be checking your child's phone to make sure that they're having appropriate conversations with people. And, to be honest with you, even if it's not like intrusive, just checking on your own just to make sure, or even having a conversation about it and being like, hey, I don't want to be intrusive, but at the same time, it's not a safe day and age, and boundaries are important. And yeah, just so that a child doesn't feel like controlled, so they understand, like, the urgency of it, because I think when you're that young, you don't necessarily understand the urgency of it. But yeah, with everything going on today, her aunt simply looking at her phone and looking through her text messages could have saved her life. However, he did tell her to delete the messages. So she was deleting messages, and, so was he. But also, he had a very, apparently, it was hard to get. Apparently, his girlfriend and like baby mama, with who he had like 5 kids with, had been trying to get into his phone and get into his shit to see what was going on for quite some time, but she couldn't get into it because, of course, it was like under stringent lock and key. So it's like you had to do like a facial recognition thing to get into it. It's like so crazy. Which to me, I mean, that should be the biggest red flag. I mean, that would be a deal breaker. It's like, dude, um, I think anybody who is not comfortable allowing their partner to look at their phone or their messages, things like that, and I don't mean obsessively, but like anybody that's like being shady like that, that's a huge red flag. Like, I would not care if my boyfriend picked up my phone right now and looked at all my messages, because I have nothing to hide. I would let him. You know what I mean? I don't have. The only reason actually I have a passcode on my phone is I have to, because I do all of my work, which has private client information. So it literally requires me to have a passcode, because somebody who went into my phone, it could be breaking HIPAA violations, which could be breaking the law. So I literally, pretty much legally, probably have to have a password on there. But in protection of my job and shit like that. But what was I gonna say? As far as, yeah, so I'm just saying, I think that some of these things are just super negligent. Also, she had an Instagram. Like, why is a 13-year-old on Instagram? I'm sorry, absolutely not. If I ever have kids, you are not fucking getting an Instagram until you're 16. I'd say 16 for Instagram. I mean, some of these websites, TikTok, a little bit younger, sure, that, because kids like to do dances on there, things like that. But again, all this shit should be monitored. Because really, things can get dangerous quick, and kids, they're smart and they can get easily manipulated. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's just kind of cray. So I don't know. So they went through the text messages, and I didn't see all of them. I did read some of them, which they're just like, I can't. That's why I wanted to go live and talk about this stuff, because it's like, I can't get this shit out of my head. Like, it's like, this is just like really traumatized, just, I can't, I don't know, it's just crazy and scary and so creepy. And I don't know, so like, apparently he texted her on January 9th, the day that he was going to pick her up from school. And it's just so eerie and creepy, because in the text messages, I can't remember, she may have asked him. I think she asked him. And I'm thinking, just based on what I know about trauma, I'm very much so thinking it's like a PTSD thing, where as a stress response, in order to have some type of predictability or consistency surrounding what was going to happen next, because she was around unsafe, unpredictable adults. So this will make sense in a second when you hear what I'm about to say. The text message that she sent to Jarvis, Naziyah, 13-year-old Naziyah, texted Jarvis, and I can't remember if the text exchange started this way. I don't think so. I think they said something else previously, and then she said, so where do you want to do it today? Like, have sex. I don't know what I can say on here. And so that's what I meant by that, is she probably initiated asking that, because, again, just for predictability, consistency, it's like, probably so she could know what was going to happen, or when it was going to happen, or where it was going to happen, because really the whole thing is rape. But at least if she has some predictability about when it's going to happen. And it's so sad. because it's like the other thing that's really sad about it is like you watch the text exchange, and I just want to go talk to this guy and just say like, what is wrong with you? Like, did you not in that moment have any empathy towards that little girl? Like, you didn't consider this is a 13-year-old little girl who literally is looking at me, who's supposed to be her uncle, as her boyfriend. I mean, he must have, like, of course, in the grooming process, these types of people do manipulate the hell out of these kids, but he must have said something to her that made her think or feel. I mean, maybe not, but like made her think that he was like her boyfriend or something, because she texted him and said like, I miss you or something, which also was really sad. She said something like, I miss you, and he like didn't say it back, which is just like, it's just sad, because it's just like she's trying to get some type of validation or love in any way she can from this person who's actually supposed to be like caring for her appropriately and giving her that love appropriately. And so it's just really sad to see her in those messages trying to get that from him in the any way she could, because she was being violated by this fucking asshole. And so as a kid, in her kid mind, she thought, oh well, this is my boyfriend, so well, maybe if I say I miss him, or then he'll say that back, and that'll be a way to feel loved and cared about. And she probably had no clue how she was really feeling. So that I miss you and stuff like that, it's like, in a child's mind, again, these could have been actual feelings of like fear or trauma or whatever, but oh, it's like, oh well, I'm thinking about him, so I must miss him. Or even the trauma of being intimate with someone at that young of an age, and the vulnerability, that creates. I feel like that could have been what that was about too. It's like, it's so sad, because this guy is such a fucking creep. And so she said, I miss you, and I didn't see, I don't know if they were just taking snippets, because this was in a news article, and it's like hard. When I was going on YouTube, it was like hard to find full videos on the police interrogation, like full videos on everything, which is kind of annoying. And then I have to look further into and see if I can find any more info on the text messages, or if there was anything else said. But it went from her saying, I miss you, and then I think she might have said like, I think he didn't answer maybe, and she maybe said something else, and then maybe said hello, or like, are you gonna, and then so in the part where she was like, where do you want to, she said, where do you want to do it today, or something like that, or she said something like that. And then he said, I don't know, you tell me, which is just like so fucking weird. Just the way he's talking to her is just so fucking odd. And then it's like, and then just the ignorance of him, like the lack of understanding of like, I don't know, just in general. Anyway, he's like treating her like she's an adult. It's so weird. Because he's groomed her, and anyway. But anyway, he said, I don't know, you tell me. And she said like basement or something like that. And then I don't know what he said. And then she said, well, I miss you or something. And he didn't say anything. And then she said something else. And then she said hello. And it just was heartbreaking to watch, because it's just like, he's such a fucking prick. And you can even tell in the text messages, like, obviously, aside from the fact that clearly he's a prick because he's texting his niece, who he should not even be having any contact with at all in any inappropriate way, unless it's like, hey, hope you're having a great day at school, see you when you get off at XYZ time, and maybe we can get an ice cream or something, and legitimately just being a normal person. But he's not. So anyway, it was just really sad to see that in those text messages. Just even more devastating that it's like, she has no clue how fucking wrong this is, that this creep is doing this. She has no fucking clue. how weird this guy, you know what I mean? Because she's 13. She doesn't know. She just thinks, oh, well, this guy's older, but he wants to be my boyfriend, and, you know, we're not related, so I guess, you know what I mean? It's like, and who knows if it's even that thought process. It's probably not even that advanced, you know? Well, I don't know. 13-year-olds nowadays, I think, are exposed to a lot more than we were back then, but still, at 13, you're a child, so you're still thinking childlike. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, oh, I just lost my train of thought, but yeah, so after that, she was like, are you, you know, picking me up or whatever, and something like that, and I think he said okay or whatever, and it was just like, okay, like, he was just so cold towards her, you know what I mean? He was so cold towards her. I mean, yeah, obviously he was using her, which is so disgusting to think. It's a child. But it's just, it's also just sad, like, how cold he was towards her, because it's like, you know, obviously none of that was her fault. Oh, and that's right. That's right. I forgot about this part. The text exchange between her and him, she mentioned to him that her period hadn't come. And she asked about a pregnancy test, and he said to her, he told her to go get one, or to get one. And it's like, what? She's 13 years old. What the fuck is it? Like, first off, a 13-year-old getting a pregnancy test. Second off, where is she gonna get the money? How is she gonna get there? Like, how dare he, like, you go get one? Like, how disgusting. Like, it's just, it's like, you did this. You're disgusting that you did this to begin with, and now you're like treating her like she's trash, or like you're disgusted with her because she's pregnant, when really what's crazy is these types of sickos who think like this creepy sicko Jarvis Butts, they are, of course, ashamed, I think, like deeply ashamed of their behavior, but it's like, I don't think they are able to really process that or own that. So I think what happens is these predators, they project it onto their victims. So for example, he got this little girl who he had no business touching in any way, shape, or form, or talking to in that way. He got her pregnant, and then what he did to her, it's like almost like it's a trigger for him, if that makes sense, because what he did to her is basically signals to him, it's like proof to him of how much of a monster he is, if that makes sense. It's proof to him of how much of a sick bastard he is, getting her pregnant, and the fact that she's missing her period. And so it's kind of like, it forces him to look at it. It puts it up in his face, because it's like, oh, she's pregnant. It's like, oh, well, how did a 13-year-old get pregnant, bro? You. So it's like, I think that triggered some type of shame. I don't think guilt. I think it's shame about how much of a fucking freak of nature, sick piece of shit he is, basically. And I think for him, I think that's what it triggered, is like, oh my gosh, I'm a monster, I'm a horrible person, I did this. And because he's such a monster and a predator, very typical of predators, something that's very typical of predators is they don't like to take accountability for their behavior. So instead of doing so, they project that out onto their victims, like what I'm talking about. So instead of him doing what, you know, well, that just wouldn't happen, because he's a sicko, because a healthy person wouldn't even get a 13-year-old pregnant. But anyway, a normal person who made a mistake, well, see, again, it just doesn't apply in this situation, because that's not a mistake, that's a clear crime, and it's disgusting. But I'm trying to like verbalize it in such a way, but it's just kind of like, that's just not normal. If you do something that you know is not healthy, it's normal to take accountability for that in some way, shape, or form, and not hurt people further, you know. You can tell how sick a person is by how willing or not willing they are to take accountability for their behavior, and this guy is a very, very good example of what it looks like when you're an extreme narcissist predator who cares more about image than you do like life and a little girl and kids and morality. This guy is a sick bitch, this Jarvis Butts. And just, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is the fact that his logic or lack thereof drove him to think that the best idea in this situation would be to kill an innocent little girl that did nothing versus owning up to what he did, or even like paying for an abortion. Like, I don't, like, it's so weird, but like I don't get that. Like, I've seen teenagers at abortion clinics with their parents. So, I mean, whatever, the guy's a creep, and again, he was guilty, so he didn't want to get caught, so he panicked, I'm sure. But either way, I'm just saying, like, you know, this guy was so ashamed of his behavior, he didn't want anybody to find out what had happened because this guy was too nervous he would get caught. You know, I mean, and that's how you know you're guilty, because it's like nobody would know if he would have taken her to a clinic to get an abortion. Like, not really. Like, but at the same time, he was probably afraid she would tell or whatever, or but then it's just like, again, it's no logic at all, because it's like, dude, you're fucked though if you, like, you're more fucked if you go the other route. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, like, you're screwed either way here. I don't really just ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, it's almost like, so what I'm basically saying is when he got her pregnant, she then was a symbol of, like, a physical, tangible symbol of his shame, or like his sickness and behavior. So it was almost like it had nothing to do with her. It's almost like he in his sick mind, it was like, oh, I need to destroy her because I need to destroy what I did, you know, or I need to get rid of what I did, or if I just get rid of her, I'll just, you know, get rid of what I did, or hide what I did, or, you know what I mean? Like, that was, so it's like he felt like by destroying her, you know, that was the way to get rid of what he did altogether, when it's like, dude, we all have the evidence. So I don't know where that thought process of his came from, but it's very sick, that predators think that way. And I've studied a lot on this. That's why, like, I know about this stuff, because I have worked with survivors of abuse and narcissistic abuse for about 15 years, and I've studied on predators for over a decade, I guess. So yeah, and I went to school for psychology and shit like that, and specifically, like I said, worked in certain areas that gave me more knowledge on this stuff. But either way, my point is, this guy had to destroy Naziyah not because of anything other than she symbolized just how sick he is, basically. So I don't so I guess maybe that's the thought process. But yeah, it was just really sad to see that. And he's like, oh, you know, he told her, "Oh, you get a test," and she's like, "What do you mean? No, you get the test." I think she said something like, "You're the parent," or I don't know if she said that. I could be wrong, but like, it. Which, I mean, how weird of him to tell her, "You go get the test again," because he didn't want to have to face the reality of what he fucking did. Sick. Really sad. And this is why, it's important when there is a child in your family, or that that's in a vulnerable position where they don't have the protection of a mother or father, to really look out for that kid, because oftentimes predators do pick up on that when those kids are isolated, or you know have no support, and so then they become targets, easy targets. Yeah. So, and she didn't have a mom, and I'm not sure where her dad was. So she really didn't have anybody but her aunt, who clearly was, has a sick thought process and is not healed herself. I did more research, and I think this runs in their family, which is typical, you know. I do not know what is going on out there. Who is that? It's like 1 a.m. and this person. What the fuck is going on? Anyway, sorry. But yeah, so it's important. So it's like this dude was grooming her since 2022. It's just like, I'm sorry, there's definitely negligence there. I do not see how how no one how none of these women picked this up. It's just nuts. And it's just sad. But yeah, I don't know, it's just been on my mind a lot because I'm watching the case heavily. I really want to watch the police interrogation, but I can't seem to really find I can't find the full interrogation. I haven't been able to find it. I don't know where to find it. So I was actually going to go live and do a screencast thing where I show my screen and maybe like play some of the videos and talk about them, some of the videos from the trial, or some of the, some of what happened or has been happening at the trial. Hi, Pearly. Psst, psst, psst. So, I was thinking about possibly doing that at some point. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, so I saw the. I need to stop doing this, but I saw the. I saw Jarvis Butt's fiance get on stand. So this dude apparently, and actually my client brought up a really good point about this. This guy was like a player. He had a baby mama, he had a fiance, he had a girlfriend. And a good point that someone brought up to me is they said, like, um, that was like his cover up. Him pretending, oh, I'm a player and all this stuff, was actually his cover up for, like, you know, it's like what I was talking about, well, on my other channel about people who, like, when they're lying, they over explain. It's kind of like the same thing. He's like lying. He's not like a player and into lots of women. He's a child molester and he's into kids. You know what I mean? And so he's like, I don't know, overcompensating for that by trying to make it seem like, oh, yeah, I'm a player. I'm really into women. When it's like, nah, you're really into those women's kids. And the other thing I found weird, and I'm really not trying to be mean, but I do find this odd, and I also think it's important to point it out just for the sake of, like, people to recognize in the future. That is super, super weird the way that the scandal burned. I'm kind of shocked. I don't really know. Anyway, that's so odd, but okay. That is interesting the way that burned. Yeah. So what I was gonna say was, so yeah, he's like basically overcompensating and trying to make it look like, oh wow, he's a player, so you'd never suspect, but it's like, yeah. Anyway, the other thing I find odd, this is what I was gonna talk about, is that, like, so his fiance got up on stand, so did his baby mama, and this guy is a pretty good looking guy, and I just find it odd, and I'm gonna be honest about it, I find it odd, his choice of women. And I say this because the guy is a pretty good looking guy, to the point where he could definitely have his pick of women, like with his looks. And, like, just the two women I saw, and this is just my opinion, they, like, looks wise, not character wise. Character wise, those women are, or at least his fiance seemed like she was out of his league, but looks wise, he is out of their league. And I don't know, I almost kind of feel like, and I don't mean to be mean about this, but, like, this is why it's important for us to really, like, know ourselves and be honest with ourselves. Like, if a guy is, like, out of your league and they're way better looking than you and they're hitting on you, I'm not saying, like, oh, don't go after it, but I don't know, I almost kind of feel like that could have been a red flag here, because it's like, well, why wouldn't you be going for like younger women, or not even younger women, but like, I don't know. Like, it just seemed like, anyway, I have a theory that it's probably because he was just interested in their kids, so he didn't really care almost. I don't know, but then it's like it doesn't make sense because his baby mama, he had a bunch of kids with her. I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think. Other than like obviously predators have low self-esteem, but I don't think it's that. I think it's that predators seek out easy targets, and easy targets for predators are any woman with low self-esteem, or any woman that's um I don't want to say desperate, but yeah, kind of, or somebody that's like easily influenced or swayed, or, somebody that has kids and needs support. So predators will, especially sexual predators, will target single mothers with kids. So you got to be very careful about that type of stuff because yeah, they'll target single mothers with kids, and you know, purposefully, because they know that single mothers with kids are looking for support, so they're vulnerable, and so they're more. I mean, like the woman who got up, like his fiance who got up on stand, or ex fiance who got up on stand, said today, like, yeah, there were some red flags, but like I kept him around because he was really good with the kids. And it's like, okay, hmm, there's the vulnerability. It's like, if she didn't have kids, would she have been putting up with this bullshit? And is that really an excuse to, like, oh, I have kids and he's good with the kids, but he treats me like shit? Like, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. It's not actual logic, people. And this is why I'm bringing this up, because why I'm bringing this up is it's important for us to know ourselves and really see ourselves clearly and know the reality of who we are, so that we don't get swindled, you know? For example, like if these women like were realistic and they're like, is this like red flaggish that this like pretty good looking guy is hitting on me when he could probably have anyone he wants? Like, what does he really want? You know what I mean? Like, come on. I don't know. And I could be wrong about this, but I just find it odd and interesting. It's kind of like, I don't think he was interested in those women at all. I think he was interested in their kids. But then, I don't even know. But I just know that predators, they target people with low self-esteem. They target people who are vulnerable, who need help, who um, are easy to reel in and influence. People who are vulnerable. But yeah, um, basically, I just think it's important. That's why it's important to be grounded and to make healthy decisions in life, and also not like, and make just like well-rounded decisions. Like, for example, this lady, his fiance, she gets up on there and she's like, yeah, he'd come over. Like at first she said like, oh, it's 6-ish, and they said, oh, like right when he would get off work. And she said, well, no, he'd like do things before that. And they said, okay, so like what, 9? And she's like, yeah, 9, 10. And it's like, okay. Then they're like, well, how often would he come over? She was like, like 2 days a week. She's like, oh, like consecutive days? No, just like random days. Okay, 2 days a week is not a lot, especially if it's your fucking fiance. Um, and then get this. And then they asked her, oh, and how long would he stay at your house? Oh, he would, get up and leave at like 2 or 3 a.m. And it's like, okay, so you mean to tell me that you actually got engaged to and settled for a guy who comes around twice a week at 9 to 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. That's like 5 hours max. 6 maybe. 2 to 3 a.m., she said. Which again is a red flag in and of itself. Like, and the fact that you're coming over at 9 or 10, red flag. So you would literally spend a total of 10 to 13 hours with this fucking guy a week. And you seriously called that guy your fiance? Like, you can't even know someone like that if you only see them, like, if you're engaged to them and you see them twice a week and you only see them at night. So let me guess, what were they doing? Having sex and sleeping a little bit? Like, so that's, you're not even spending time together. You're not eating together. Like, and then it goes against her original, like, claim that, oh yeah, I stayed with him because he's good with the kids. It's like, aren't the, like, I'm sure the kids are in bed between 9 to 10 p.m. and 2 to 3 a.m. So it's like, what the fuck was this lady talking about? These bitches, I'm sorry, and I'm gonna say it, they sound delusional. They sound fucking delusional. Like, where were your kids? Did your kids wake up at 9 p.m.? What do you mean he was good with the kids? What do you say, hi to the kids? Like, my point is, these bitches have the lowest standards ever, and then they want to sit there and cry wolf and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Yes, you fucking did. You did know. You were just ignorant, or you didn't care, or both. I mean, come on, guys, ladies. Let's be real. Have some more goddamn respect for yourself. There is absolutely no way in fucking hell I would stick around a guy ever at any age if all he did was come over at 9 to 10 p.m. until 2 to 3 a.m. Are you kidding me? That would happen like a handful of times, and then I'd be like, bye. It's like, to keep putting up with that and then claim that's your fiance? Like, what is this guy actually doing with you or your kids or in your life? Like, what are you talking about? Like, again, what it boils down to is, I think the woman had very low self-esteem. And I do think it comes down to looks, and I think part of it is he was much better looking. And so I think people who are less good looking and they have more baggage and they, you know what I mean, come across a good looking person, it's like, oh, well, I can sacrifice these things. I can put up with this bullshit, or they're more willing to, or apt to, is almost what it seems like. And to me, that's desperate. You're thirsty and you don't respect yourself. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. You're gonna let this person come in and out of your life like this. I don't know. When they're only coming over at 9 or 10 p.m. until 2 to 3 a.m. I mean, come on. Isn't that obvious he doesn't like you like that? You really believe him that he wants to marry you? Like, no, he got engaged to you so that he could just keep you trapped. Like, he's probably a psychopath, if not a sociopath, I guess. But like, I don't get how she didn't ever question, like, maybe this is, there's something off about this. Because of how this guy's operating, but also like he's out of your league looks wise. And I just feel like him wanting to get engaged to you, I mean, I'm really not trying to be mean, but that should have been a red flag. Like, what, you have other girlfriends but you're trying to propose to me? He was trying to get to one of her kids, probably. Who knows? I don't really know, you know, whether she had sons or daughters, or I can't remember, but anyway, point is, and this lady didn't even have any kids with him either. That's what's crazy. This lady was his fiance, but she didn't have any kids with Jarvis Butts. She had kids from a previous relationship, and she said, "Oh, he's good with my kids." And it's like, okay, come on. I don't know. The first thing these predators do is groom the parents, obviously, to get them comfortable so they can put their guard down, so they can get to the kids. So I don't know. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. I just think these people were probably captivated by his looks, or you know what I mean? Like, there had to be something like that. I mean, I'm not saying he's like, oh, so good looking, but the guy's a decent looking guy. He's a good looking guy, I'd say. So it's like I could see how maybe a female with lower self esteem that is single and desperate for help, I guess, and maybe desperate for attention or desperate for some D, I don't fucking know. Um, could fall for that. I could see that, but yeah, I don't know. All I can say is my point in bringing that up is I wrote a comment about this, and I might, I don't know how I'd pull, yeah, I'm gonna try to pull it up and read it, because I posted it on the video for her testimony, because I just needed to say something, because it's like, how are none of these people ashamed of themselves outside of his sister, Jarvis Butt's sister, who I saw a good friend of hers post a comment and say, hey, everybody pray for her. You know, she raised Jarvis and Jarvis's, you know, the rest of their siblings. And she really tried to, you know, get Jarvis in a good place. And he's just been like a pain in her fucking ass her whole life. And she was someone who testified. And so, and I think she was somebody, I think there were multiple women, though. There were a couple of women who did try to intervene when they found out information, but I just think some of it was timing. Like I think some of them were kind of negligent with the timing. Like when Naziyah went missing, instead of them reporting it immediately, they just like waited till the next day, which is really weird. It just kind of goes to show it's like, you guys care about this little girl that little? Like, it's Detroit. Detroit is like one of the most dangerous places, especially for kids with sex trafficking, sorry, and little girls and stuff like that. Like, it's especially unsafe, I think, for little girls nowadays, especially teenage girls and shit like that. And so it's just like, you were not concerned. You guys waited till the next day. Like, where possibly would you think she would have gone? Like, it's just so odd. And so again, this is why predators prey on those types of children, or when I say those types of children, I mean children who are isolated, children who have been neglected or are not being fully cared for, because these predators know that people won't go looking for them, or if they do, it's like, you know, look at how they responded. They didn't care in the way they should have, and that just points to how he was able to do what he was able to do to begin with, because of that type of negligence coming from them. So, yeah. It's just sad because could have been prevented. But yeah, it's like, I'm glad I came on this channel. I was gonna go on my other channel, but I'm trying to go on this one more to get more people to come on here and get engaged, because I know I don't post on this channel a lot. I post on my other channel a lot. But I want to start posting on here more again. It's just there's been a lot going on in my life the past, I don't know, forever. But yeah, I should have stayed focused on my channel. Like 2 to 3 years ago, I should have just kept going with my channel, but kind of got thrown off a little, taken off path a little bit, but trying to come back. I mean, that's most of what I wanted to talk about with Naziyah. It's just been on my mind like constantly. It's hard for it not to be, because it's just like, I mean, this is like, there's some big cases that stand out to me in the past 5 years, I'd say, that I'm thinking of. Zion Foster is one. The Idaho murders is one. What was I gonna say? The Idaho murders is one. Gabby Petito is one. I'm trying to think. Those are the biggest ones to me that like have haunted me pretty heavily. Zion I'm more at peace about, because that guy's going to prison, and yeah, he's in prison for he got like 100 years in prison with the possibility of parole, which I don't think he should have parole. But yeah, because he seems evil. The guy's evil. He I think he tried to rape Zion. He was definitely grooming Zion. He was sending her provocative text messages about what he was doing with his girlfriend, just really inappropriate. Anyway, so yeah, that really stood out to me, and he was just such a fucking creep. Again, he tried to do stuff with her, then killed her, and somehow hid her body, just like this guy. Very similar situation. Yeah. Similar. I mean, she's still a kid at 17, but I mean, I don't think it was consensual, though. It wasn't consensual. It wasn't her real cousin, but it was not consensual. I think something happened where he tried to do something with her. She resisted, and he harmed her, or I don't know if it was accidentally. I don't know. Anyway, just Detroit is a really wicked place at times. It seems like really wicked energy there. But I rebuke all of that in the name of the universe. In the name of God, yeah. It's like all that energy, yeah. But anyway, yeah. In this case with Naziyah, has definitely stood out. Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing I do want to point out, though, because I'm thinking in both cases about, how with Zion, in her case, it's like I was thinking about text messages. There was text messages between her and Jalen, her quote unquote cousin by marriage or whatever. It was her mom's, well, actually her dad's, I guess, brother's kid or something like that, whatever. Um, but, or, no, I don't think they're related, you guys. No, I think it was her mom's, fuck, I don't know. Anyway, I don't think they were related. But either way, what I was thinking about was like with her mom too. I was thinking, well, man, she also didn't check the text messages. But then I was thinking, well, the link between both of them in this case, though, or any case with a predator, is the common link is that both of these women trusted these men, or to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Trusted them to a certain degree. Maybe trusted them enough to, I mean, not think they would do something that heinous, or anything close to that heinous. So I think that's part of this, is that this is where predators really trick people, and so it's not really either of those women's fault in some sense, because it's like, you wouldn't assume you would have to check to see if interactions with family members are safe or not, but that's the thing, is that that's typically the people who perpetrate these crimes of sexual abuse. It's usually against family members or neighbors, anybody they have close access to. It's the VAC model. So the VAC model, it's called the VAC model, and it stands for vulnerability, accessibility, and credibility. And vulnerability is like, so this is how predators choose their prey. So they choose a population, or someone who's from a population that's vulnerable in some way, shape, or form. So children and the elderly are, big targets because they're vulnerable, in a sense, or yeah, they are. And so predators will typically choose someone that is naive in some way or vulnerable in some way. It doesn't even have to necessarily be a child or elderly. This could be somebody who's mentally and emotionally vulnerable, just like, in a tough place in their life, isolated in an abusive relationship, whatever, or abusive situation, neglected, etc. So they look for someone like that. Then accessibility, it's like, they find a way to access the victim. And again, that's why they choose people close to them, accessibility. And then C is credibility. They choose someone that they think that people won't believe if this person were to come out and accuse them, almost, So it's really messed up. And I do want to just send out healing energy and say a prayer for both families, for Sierra Milton, Zion Foster's mom, for her healing and peace of mind as she moves forward in life, and also for Naziyah Harris's family, that they find peace in some way, shape, or form, and that they get justice for Naziyah. She'll definitely get justice. This guy is for sure guilty. Doesn't matter if he wants to sit there and lie, they have concrete proof, but this, this dude was still lying to their faces. It's like, come on, dude, the jig is up. But, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the other thing I wonder is, like, where the hell was the aunt all these times where, like, he was picking, like, where he picked her up from school, Naziyah, where this guy picked Naziyah up from school on January 9th and was able to, like, drive her to Ypsilanti and back, and who knows what the fuck he did with her there, then took her to a motel. You know what I mean? Just, like, I don't. Where the hell was the aunt? Where were these people who supposedly cared about her? Like, how was she able? Why was this able to happen? Like, nobody questioned, like, hey, where's Jarvis? Where's Naziyah? Nobody, like, it's strange, and it just really points to the negligence on everyone's part. So, it's just crazy to me, and I don't get how that could have taken place only in the face of extreme negligence, because why was nobody asking? It's just so strange. It's just very odd. To be honest with you, though, I think that that is why he chose the women he chose, because yeah, that's why I feel like he chose the woman he chose, because, again, vulnerability. People don't think about other vulnerabilities. Like, okay, single women with children, that's a vulnerability. women who have low self-esteem or who don't feel very good about themselves. That's a vulnerability. You know what I mean? Accessibility through the women. Credibility. Well, you're a kid. Why would, you could be making that up. So, yeah, that's how that works. But I'm not going to go on too long because if it's too long, I don't think people will watch this. So, peace, everybody.